it is really special to be able to launch on behalf of the Rockwell Fellowship in Entrepreneurship and Innovation, our very first Rockwell speaker. The Rockwell Fellowship is funded by the S. Kent Rockwell Foundation. So it is my delight to welcome and introduce you all to Noah Glass, who is the CEO and founder of Olo. And as he waves, and typical of an incredible bio that he holds, a journey that he has undergone. This company of Olo is the leading provider of digital ordering and delivery solutions for the restaurant industry. It partners with and enables this platform for some of the most recognizable restaurant brands that we hold so dear. He told me about Primanti Brothers in Pittsburgh, and I just smiled from ear to ear. But amongst the list also includes Applebee's and Checkers and Rally's and the Cheesecake Factory. And if you go to the Olo site, olo.com, you will see the list, which is endless. I showed this to my students just a few weeks ago, and their eyes just opened like, this is the real deal. Yes. This Olo is the real deal.
So it's a great honor to be the inaugural speaker of the Rockwell Speaker Series. And as you heard Dr. Griffinell say, Olo is the leading digital ordering and delivery enablement provider for enterprise restaurant brands. We work with over 40,000 restaurant locations across the United States and in Canada, made up of 300 different restaurant brands. Those include Applebee's, Chili's, Five Guys, Shake Shack, Sweet Green, Wingstop, and yes, my Pittsburgh friends, Primanti Brothers. I know it's a local favorite. I'm not so sure about the fries on a sandwich thing, but maybe I'll come around. Okay, so what does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? I approach this question humbly because I don't consider myself a successful entrepreneur, at least not yet, but I do feel like I've had some experience and I can answer this question better than most. So I think most people would tell you that it's all about having a big idea, right? You brainstorm, you then select your big idea, you then perfect your elevator pitch so you can tell others and get them excited about your idea. Then you get funded and then off to the races, boom. In the brief time that I have with you today, I want to use Olo and my story to make the case that it's not just about the big idea. That's necessary, but it's not sufficient. Being a successful entrepreneur is truly about pulling together a group of stakeholders and a team that have aligned values and a shared mission, and then keeping them aligned and on mission with a heavy dose of grit and perseverance. And this matters because it's the recipe for success as an entrepreneur. And for our purposes here, it may help to give the Rockwell Fellowship in Entrepreneurship and Innovation the right focus on the critical skills to hone during your time in the program. Let me start out with, where did Olo's big idea come from? I moved to downtown Manhattan in the fall of 2003. At the time, I was strangely obsessed with PDAs, personal digital assistants. I was carrying around a Palm Pilot, and I was really intrigued by this program called Vindigo. And Vindigo would, through a partnership with Zagat, show you restaurant locations and other points of interest on a map that would move as you moved. You could click on those points of interest, you can get more information about those places, open hours, phone numbers, etc. What I realized was that there was no way to transact with those places. And that sort of stuck in my head. The idea of, it would be great if I could use this thing to pre-order and prepay and then get my cup of coffee or my lunch sandwich faster. So that was in 2003 when I first started to have that idea. But of course, Olo's origin story is really intertwined with my own story. And like all ideas, the spark came at a certain place and at a certain time. And then in 2003, back to moving to Wall Street in downtown Manhattan, I really came to feel that smartphones, phones like this personal digital assistant I was carrying around with me, that knew where you were, that knew who you were, that could give you information about places around you and fundamentally enable you to transact, that those were about to become ubiquitous, that it was imminent. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but we would all have these things. We'd have a supercomputer in our pockets. And that would change everything. And that would make this opportunity of what I think of as on-demand commerce possible. And that idea sort of sat in my head as a business plan on paper, didn't really go very far. But I was working full-time at a company called Endeavor, which is an organization that's really dedicated to fostering entrepreneurship and great entrepreneurs all around the globe. And as part of my job at Endeavor, I was given the opportunity to move to Johannesburg, South Africa, for what was supposed to be a 2-week project that turned into a 3-month project that turned into a full year project, along with an illustrious new colleague, Dr. Chris Howard, to go and launch the Endeavor South Africa office, the first office outside of Latin America for Endeavor to do its work in supporting great entrepreneurs. And it was really during that time, number one, that I bonded with Dr. Howard, President Howard, and developed this mentor-mentee relationship with him. And I sat down with him. I said, I've had this kind of burning idea in my head of the ability to order and pay for food and then send it directly into a restaurant location so you can go and pick it up without having to wait for it. I know you all are really busy with what you're working on. Do you have any friends? Do you know anybody who I could get to work on this as sort of a nights and weekends project? And I'll give them a little bit of sweat equity in what we're building in exchange for the work they put in, because I don't have a dollar to pay them at this point. And we put together a prototype of just that. It was the ability to go to a simple menu on a very simple mobile web enabled device, build up an order, place the order, and then have the order arrive on a piece of software sitting on what was supposed to represent a point of sale system on the counter at the restaurant. So I think we were finished with this work in early 2005. And I showed it to someone who had been kind of a key component of our network in South Africa, an entrepreneur turned investor named David Frankel, who was one of President Howard's classmates at Harvard Business School. And in the typical way that, when you are looking for advice, you ask for money. And when you're looking for money, you ask for advice. I showed him this project and I showed him this prototype and I said, what do you think about this? Now, I was supposed to head off to Harvard Business School in the fall. I had this great job at Endeavor. I was sort of wrestling with, should I stay with Endeavor doing this exciting work of expanding into new countries with the Endeavor model? Should I go to Harvard Business School? David said to me, I don't know if this idea is a good idea or not, but I like you from the time that we worked together. I think you're a go-getter. And if you have enough conviction to quit your job at Endeavor and withdraw your admission to Harvard Business School, I'll give you the money to get you started. And that was really a commitment test or a conviction test. And it was a great, great gift that he gave me by forcing me to make a really hard choice. The challenge was when I came back to New York City to go and commercialize and launch Olo, nobody had smartphones. We were still in the very early days. It was under 5% of mobile phone users in the US that had smartphones. And so we had to totally rethink what we built and build something that would work with simple text messaging. We were, for many months, doing promotions in sort of spring and summer of 2006 to get people to use the platform, try the platform, do anything to create an account and text message their first order in. And then doing a promotion on Wall Street one morning, we happened to hand a flyer to a producer, a writer for the Wall Street Journal. And he wrote a story on September 20th. And that set off this cascade of PR that really changed the company's fate forever. On January 20th in the afternoon, after that story had hit, we got a call from ABC World News. And they said, David Muir is really into the story and he wants to do an interview with you. Could you meet him at Rockefeller Center? We've got our cameras ready. Like, can you get up there? And I met him up there. We did an interview. The next morning, September 21st, 2006, we were the leadoff story on Good Morning America that you could order and pay with a text message and get your coffee faster at Dunkin' Donuts. And you had Diane Sawyer and Robin Roberts and David Muir bringing them in stuff that he'd ordered for them on Dunkin' Donuts through our platform. 6 million people viewed that. One of those 6 million people was the CTO of Dunkin' Donuts, who was not very happy that this was a national story, because there were exactly one Dunkin' Donuts locations that were using this platform, just that one at Rockefeller Center. But it looked like you could use it everywhere. So their phones were ringing off the hook. This is so cool. How do I do this text message ordering thing? And then we saw something miraculous happening in Dallas, Texas. We had a customer in Dallas who had heard about Olo because of some of the PR success that we'd had. And they said, we know that you're not actively trying to recruit consumers in this market, but we don't really care. We just think the technology is cool. We think our customers would like it. Our burgers take a long time to prepare. What if we market to the consumers and we still pay you, your commission for these consumers who are ordering through the platform? That was a brand called Mooyah Burgers. And that insight of just this one cohort of customers where we were sure that the economics worked because we weren't spending anything to acquire them, but the brand was doing that on our behalf, changed the business forever. We went from being what was a B2C model, business to consumer, a consumer-oriented brand, to becoming a B2B, or as I call it, B2B2C model, where we're serving the restaurant as our customer in order for the restaurant to better serve their end consumer. I really believe that we are in the early innings of the restaurant industry's digital transformation. We're just getting started here at Olo. And I also believe that, true to sort of how I first started thinking about this, restaurants are really where we start and not where we end. I believe that this idea of on-demand commerce and being able to find retailers that are nearby to you where you can order and pay and pick something up in real time or get it delivered to you same hour is something that is far beyond just the restaurant industry. And so as I say to Team Olo at basically every sign off, we have miles to go before we sleep. I've really never been more excited than I am today about our opportunity. And as I say to the Olo board all the time, and I do have some board members here, so I'll repeat it. I'd like to spend the rest of my career at Olo, and that's if the Olo board will have me. And I'm working really hard to get all of Team Olo to feel that same way, to feel inspired, to feel excited, challenged, recognized, and appreciated. I view that as my number one responsibility, is to attract and retain the very best talent to join our team and to join our mission.
Hi, Mr. Glass. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today. Thank you, Dr. Griffinell. So I love the integration of entrepreneurship and philanthropy. It's really refreshing to hear that, you've not only made a very successful way for yourself, but you've also taken the time to, give back to others. As that's really somewhere I want to be later in life. How does a student tailor their professional development to be someone that can give back in the same way that, or the same capacity that you do?
Yeah, great question, Taylor. Thank you. I think it starts really early of just being passionate about some of the issues that you want to give back to or give back through. So I was always passionate about entrepreneurship. I was always passionate about international development. It's kind of the area of study that I pursued in college. And so finding Endeavor as a first job to go and do out of school en route to what I thought was my next step of Harvard Business School was kind of a natural fit for me. But it got me kind of working in a nonprofit orientation early on. I skipped over what I did in between Shutterfly and ultimately doing consulting, which was to work at Amnesty International in Dublin for a summer in the summer of 2001. And I just think getting involved with nonprofits and causes that you care about early. Before I moved to New York City and after graduating, did a bicycle trip across the United States for Habitat for Humanity, just finding the things that you care about and spending some portion of your time working on them. I think it's just a good muscle to keep developing. And it just naturally, when you can bring it into the work that you do, day to day, makes it much easier. I think I, for many years, had sort of was just a huge fan of No Kid Hungry and the work that they were doing. And when Danny Meyer, who I mentioned earlier, joined our board and invested in the company, and I knew he was a director of No Kid Hungry, Share Our Strength. I just, for years said, like, Danny, I'm just dying to get more involved. And, we give at Olo as part of our holiday gifts. We do like City Harvest and Share Our Strength, but I really want to give of my time as well. And, finally, after years, he said, there was an opportunity, and it's been a great thing to be able to use part of my working time for that purpose, and sort of stems from earlier work that I did as a student and with spare time in between.
I want to just go back and just say to my dear friend Noah Glass, thank you for being the human being you are. You might recall, I don't know, 15 years ago, I think it was in Joburg, when I got a picture of my sons. And I think I gave you a picture of them, and I wrote on the back, I said something like, I want them to grow up to be like you, or I want you to be their role model. It was all those years ago. And now, just as much as being a great CEO, and I'm proud to be on your advisory board, but also you're a great dad and a great husband and a great brother-in-law. And I'm so proud that Mrs. Glass is on the call. That's just awesome. Hope she was able to stay on, so she's blushing a bit. So thank you for being the human being that you are, and demonstrating to these wonderful entrepreneurs in the Rockwell program, these wonderful faculty do such a great job, the dean, Dr. Crawley, Dr. Eliana Griffinell, that values matter, and being classy matters. And I'll tell you, Noah has a soft heart, and he's really philanthropic, but he's a freaking amazing CEO. He's as incisive with the numbers as they get. He knows what he's doing. And I remember we asked for about $1 million rand from Nikki Oppenheimer from the De Beers Anglo-American, and we were asking this guy, and I was kind of like quivering, and Noah's like, and we need the money for this, and we were going to do a great job in South Africa. I was like, I love this kid. I'm sticking with him. So anyway, Noah, out here, man, you guys be great. Thank you, Robert Morris, folks, for representing like you always do. And I'm sorry I got to head out, but all the best, my friend.
I was able to look at your website earlier and just see like what your company was about. And I was really, really impressed with the kind of like employee aspect that you like spotlight your employees. And I got to see like your hero stories and all that. And I thought that it was really refreshing to see a company that like cared so much about their employees and seemed to have this very like genuine workplace environment, and like the benefits that you offer and everything. So my question was, how important was that to you in starting your company, and how have you seen how you treat your employees grow your business and impact it in that way?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. It's an awesome question, and I'm glad that you picked up on that. I mean, that is really when I talk about the value of family and Olo being the extended family. Weirdly, I started the company as a 24-year-old, but like that idea of family and taking care of the people that you love, like, has been just sort of part of my ethos for a long time, and was true of everybody on the team. And so, it is manifested in, I think, very generous benefits, and from health benefits to parental leave benefits. But I mean, it goes beyond that. I mean, it's sort of in like the way that we think about, as I mentioned, our stakeholder groups, and that our team comes first. And it's crazy that a lot of companies operate from the perspective of the customer comes first, and they'll just kind of sacrifice people on their team and make them do kind of outrageous things for the customer. And our philosophy aligned with Enlightened Hospitality is, we need to have our team feeling like great about themselves and about the company. And if they're feeling great about themselves and the company and life, then they're going to do a great job representing the company to the customer. And so, I don't know, it's always been a natural thing for me. And our head of people and culture should be mentioned. Deanne Reinhard is just amazing, and has really kind of cultivated this as the company has grown to now over 400 people. I didn't mention this, but even pre-COVID, 60+% of our team works remotely. And Deanne, who's our head of people and culture, herself works remotely. And so it's this kind of complicated thing. How do you make people who don't work in the office feel like part of the team? And she's just done a masterful job. And it's part of our secret sauce for how we're able to recruit the best talent across multiple departments, because we do remote employment at Olo so well. And it stems from really treating everybody like a second family. So I'm glad that you saw that. And yeah, the series that we did, which is like kind of in partnership with People and Culture and also our marketing team, it's called Human Stories. And it's just about different members of our team and sort of their experience working at Olo. And it's been a really effective tool in showcasing our great people and showcasing the things that we do to attract great people and retain great people. So I'm glad you got to see those.
On that note, I think we end thinking about how important and how powerful it is to balance innovation with a sense of humanness. I'm going to thank you and thank you again and thank you forever for sharing your insight during this talk. And it almost disheartens me that we have to end. But I will end bringing back a quote that you mentioned earlier, that predicting rain doesn't count, but building arcs does. And in reflection of what you said, to build an arc that, even more so is warm and inviting on the inside, is agile and resilient on the outside, and that it is able to kind of fare across any type of climate or any type of terrain that changes many a times beyond our control, such as the time that we're sitting in now. Olo represents that. You represent that as a leader. And we're just happy to know you. We really do wish you all the best going forward. And of course, you are a treasured part of Robert Morris University's community now and always. So thank you, man.